All right, let's jump right in. In this explainer, we're unpacking the core crisis in public education today. But look, we're going to move way past the usual talking points. We're actually digging into the hidden, structural root of the problem, the very foundation our modern schools are built on, and why it's, well, fundamentally flawed.
Get this, 50%. It's honestly a staggering number. Up to half of all school funding is literally just swallowed up by administrative bloat. We're talking endless layers of central administration, published curricula, relentless testing systems, instructional coaches, external consultants, you name it. It's this relentless cycle of consumption where schools are constantly buying the shiny new proprietary systems year after year, completely draining the resources that are actually meant for the classroom.
So you got to ask yourself, why? Why is half the money missing the classroom entirely? We have this massive knowledge gap where we really need to look at the system and ask why all this money and all this endless fiddling with new initiatives isn't actually reaching the students and the teachers who need it the most. We're pouring millions into a machine, but the people right there on the front lines, they're just not seeing the benefits.
So that brings us to part one, the public education paradox. More spending, stagnant outcomes.
The source material lays this crisis out as three totally separate but deeply connected systemic failures. First up, financial inefficiency, basically wasting money on all those non-instructional layers we just talked about. Second is operational failure, utilizing educational models that are frankly broken. And third, human capital erosion, which is just completely undermining our educators and casting them as the scapegoats whenever these top-down mandated initiatives inevitably fail.
Let's actually zoom in on that operational failure for a second. Because despite a quarter-century of investing heavily in specialized intervention models, stuff like response to intervention, or RTI, and multi-tiered system of supports, MTSS, we are still seeing stagnant outcomes. We still have this persistent lack of proficiency in core competencies like reading, writing, and math. And why is that? It's because the system prioritizes state compliance and strict fidelity to programmatic frameworks over genuine student learning. It's a system that's completely obsessed with the process rather than the actual outcome.
Moving on to part two, the architecture of distrust, the hidden root cause.
Okay, here is the absolute hard truth from the source material. The entire modern educational machine is built on a foundation of top-down authority that systemically distrusts the people working closest to the children. We do not trust teachers, not structurally, not politically. We have somehow replaced their professional expertise with institutional distrust.
Because, well, what happens when you completely strip away trust? You get a surveillance culture. We've replaced professional respect with a system where external evaluators walk around with clipboards scrutinizing teachers using rigid frameworks. It creates this culture of authoritarian scoring that's focused entirely on performative compliance. Instead of supporting teachers, it monitors them. And worse, it casts them as resistors whenever they try to actually adapt to the real, live human beings sitting in their classroom.
And honestly, we have to talk about the elephant in the room here. As the source points out, this isn't just about policy. It is about a structural power dynamic. Teaching, especially at the elementary level, is historically a female-dominated profession. Meanwhile, the institutional power that's dictating exactly what they do is disproportionately male-dominated. The implicit message here is pretty clear. Practitioners cannot be trusted to make decisions, so others have to decide for them.
It's like we're treating these complex human ecosystems, classrooms full of emotion, culture, connection, and cognition, like standardized 19th century factory assembly lines. We try to script the role of the teacher and measure absolutely everything with metrics, completely ignoring the fact that education requires, in the moment, professional teacher judgment to foster real human development.
All right, part three, decades of top-down control, the policy machine.
Let's actually look at how we got here. It didn't happen overnight. Each era just layered on more control. The timeline starts around 1975, noting early advocacy from groups like the Heritage Foundation pushing for accountability, right alongside new special education laws. Then in 1983, A Nation at Risk kicks off this massive push for standardization. Jump to 2001, No Child Left Behind absolutely explodes data collection and reporting requirements. Then we get the IDEA reauthorization in 2004 and Race to the Top in 2009, which directly tied funding to data-driven performance and programmatic fidelity. Step by step, teacher autonomy was just eroded away.
And all of this creates what the source calls the FAFO feedback loop. It's totally wild when you think about it. Step 1, you remove autonomy. Step 2, you increase external control and narrow the instruction. Step 3, students check out and teachers burn out. And Step 4, and here is the truly dizzying part,
The system points to those declining outcomes as proof that even more top-down control is needed. It's a fix that continuously breaks the exact thing it claims to repair.
Which brings us to part 4, a structural reset, eliminating the bloat. Look, if we're going to fix this, we can't just tinker around the edges. We need a fundamental paradigm shift. We have to move away from the old paradigm, a system rooted entirely in control, compliance, and top-down authority. And we have to embrace a new paradigm that's actually defined by deep, classroom-centered trust, real professionalism, and genuine agency for educators.
So what does this actually look like? It's a go-to-zero plan. First, decisive delayering. We eliminate the bloated intermediary layers and fire the external consultants. Second, a strategic procurement shift. We literally just stop the endless purchasing of expensive proprietary edtech and testing systems. Third, we democratize resources by adopting free, high-quality public domain materials. And finally, we take all of those massive financial savings and inject them directly into the classroom to lower class sizes.
And the best part? We can literally do this right now because incredible resources already exist. By leveraging robust, freely available public domain stacks like CK Knowledge, Engage New York, and Public Commons Math, we can democratize excellent instructional content. Schools do not need to spend millions of dollars on restrictive commercial licenses when research-backed materials are openly available right now.
All right, our final section, empowering the classroom. Teachers as designers, not deliverers.
Now, even when we talk about the future, like AI, the approach has to be totally different. Instead of using tech to script or, replace teachers, we can integrate agentic AI as a collaborative force multiplier. Let AI act as an invisible edtech consultant, handling all the exhausting administrative tasks, sorting the data, building out lesson scaffolds. This frees up the human educator to do what only a human can do: focus on connection, emotion, and actual pedagogy.
Because here is the ultimate takeaway from this entire explainer. The solution that nobody wants to talk about in education is giving teachers actual authority and trust. You cannot mandate mastery. You cannot standardize inspiration. If we want our students to truly thrive, we absolutely must restore professional agency back to the classroom.
So, I'm going to leave you with this to really chew on. Are we going to keep feeding a bloated bureaucracy that expects our complex, dynamic classrooms to run like 19th century factories? Or are we finally ready to enact the one structural solution that actually works and give teachers the authority, the respect, and the trust they deserve? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the systems around you, and I'll catch you next time.